This is DJ Adrian. You're listening to KSSU Radio. Be yourself. Yeah, well, my name's Andrew Lloyd, or I would go by DJ Adrian. Um, I went and graduated about 2023. But prior to that, um, yeah, I've been DJing over like a decade. And I think I just walked by and saw, like, oh, they have a radio station. That's interesting. And then saw one of the events and then talked to, I can't remember his name right now. I want to say it was like Aaron or something like that. But he's like, yeah, come, you can start your own show if you'd like and all that. And, you know, took a time slot and just started it.
Yeah. I mean, that's how it goes, really.
Yep.
And like you mentioned something about like vinyl mixing or something before that, like what was that like? And then how did it feel different, like going into radio from that? Or like how did you apply that here?
Yeah. So that's just the way I started to kind of, I guess, like t date myself. But essentially, one of my friends, like first, when you could DJ technically on a laptop. We were messing around with that. And then there's a school, because I live in, Southern California. There was a school we found in LA that where they teach you how to do it all, but they teach you on vinyl first, kind of like how they did it, DJ started. So once you kind of like quote unquote master that, then you can kind of move on to, using a laptop and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of where I started was, you know, doing it on vinyl. And then, yeah, like I said, just progressed using the laptop, and I mean, then we started getting like, we do a party here. And I mean, it just started growing from there.
Vinyl is the original form and it has to be protected. I think we have what is our physical, we're celebrating like physical media day or something like that. But it's like, everything's like digital, but it's so important to have that like physical media. And we have all our CDs and we're trying to collect more vinyl here at KSSU. But
Yeah,
yeah,
because I
that's
know we
super
have the
awesome.
whole wall in the studio,
Yeah.
just like top to bottom. And then, you know, and there was one day they're like, hey, if anybody wants to help organize, I'm like, that's a long day. I know how that goes.
Yeah, we're in that process again too.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a whole thing, but it's needed.
Mhm.
Cool. And then like going back to when you were having like your show and everything, like how did you like prepare for it, or what was like the themes that you were trying to curate?
So I think typically going into any like set, anything I'm gonna do, I kind of try to first I'll kind of like think of like expectations, for anything. What are like some of the expectations that would need to get met to how can I add what like a little bit of myself into it? So at least for doing the radio part of it, um, again, like I know there was like a Halloween weekend thing, and I was like, all right, I'll make it a Halloween theme of, I think I did, the Halloween theme music, but I was trying to think of I was gonna say Hunger Games, but um, the show where they do like red light, green light. It was like the
Oh, Squid
Korean
Game?
Squid
Squid
Game.
Games?
Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so like I had a couple like edits of like Squid Game's little theme and it'd go into another song. So stuff like that or Christmas. But if it was like not a holiday, I would try to keep it kind of like energy fun. Because I know sometimes, they can see you in the glass and they can hear you too. So some people would come by and they'd be like, and I'm like kind of awkward, like, whatever. Um, because I mean, I've done like a lot of events, so it's just kind of it was a different experience having people walk by the window. Even like some of the administration people would walk by, and if they're kind of listen, I would literally just like, all right, actually, I'm gonna switch it up to maybe something that they'd like, because I'm so used to playing for somebody in front of me. So that's why with the radio is kind of different of like, well, I have nobody. I don't know who's listening or who's in front of me. So yeah, if I saw like, well, at the time it was President Nelson. If I saw him walking by, I'm like, oh, I think you like this, and I would try to like kind of catch his attention if he was walking by and kind of get anybody to stop for a second and just listen, and then just try to, I guess, get that engagement.
Yeah. And that's like, the whole thing about being a DJ, like kind of like, creating an environment or like catering to different people depending on who it is who's listening or the vibe at the moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, totally. And is there like a specific show you can think of or like a set that you did that you're proud of or that was the most memorable?
Um, I mean, let me think. There was, I mean, we did the like the suicide prevention walk. Um, I think the one that was kind of fun because we always would do something at the alumni center for like the Halloween um, you know, time. But the one that's kind of sticking out is when we did, it was I can't remember what they called it, but essentially they were teaching like Latin dancing. And um the other one of the other DJs there, he's like, hey, are you familiar with like, Spanish music and all that stuff? And I was like, yeah, dude, like I know I'm a DJ, dude. Like you gotta know, you gotta have a mix of everything. So I was like, I could do it, and how they structure it was like, hey, the first hour is gonna be like, nothing like you're mixing. You just play the song, and if they need you to go back and play again, but and then after that, it's just like, hey, party's on. I'm like, okay, cool. After the first hour, like everybody learned their dance moves, and then like the energy was just kind of like electric. Um, so that's the one I would say was probably the most fun I had was that one.
I love that. Let me see. Do you think, or like, what about KSSU or like working at the radio station? Like, how did that shape your experience here at Sac State? Like your overall like college experience?
Yeah, so it was, because again, again from Southern California, moving to a new area, don't know anybody. Um, I mean, I was kind of getting, I mean, I only had my roommates. Yeah, I was talking to really, but once I kind of started to get a little more acclimated, um, I was trying to find like where I could DJ and stuff like that, like DJ maybe downtown. Um, but I think it shaped it in the way of like it was a new experience because I did post about it like, hey, this is going to be the first time I'm doing like radio at all, and if anybody wants to listen and go for it. I'd say it was a little bit of a disaster for the first like 10 minutes of like figuring some of the stuff out because I didn't know if sound was going out or if it was just in the studio, and um because I did have like friends and some family listening, and they're like, what happened? It's like, that's what happens. Sometimes you just got to figure it out, and obviously nothing's perfect, but um, it made it, as far as the experience overall, like once I kind of got rolling, it made it more fun. Just started to be like, hey, this is something just like with DJing in general, it's always something I did. So um, it just kind of added a little bit of like comfortability because, once I got used to how the studio is and stuff like that, then it just made me pretty much settle down and be more comfortable being in a new environment and everything.
Yeah.
So
And I think like a lot of people like having a show, it's like therapeutic or like it's a way to like relax for people once you get the hang of it and the technology aspect of it. Um, yeah, totally. And do
yeah.
you feel like, or like, what sort of skills from the station do you apply to like today? Like what you're doing now? Tell us about that.
Yeah. So obviously getting radio experience with that is, again, since it was brand new, you learn a lot of things of like, with the commercials and play them every so often. And even I saw one of my friends, he was doing radio for the longest time on one of the stations out in LA. Um, it's definitely different because I feel like it's less pressure with KSSU, and obviously for him you have to stick to a format. And obviously with us, you can kind of do no, open format, however you want to do it. Um, so I like that where again, you can kind of do your own, yeah, your own show essentially and do what you want.
And like, are you still DJing today, or are you still dabbling in that at all?
Oh yeah. I kind of, I mean, I started once I started working, I kind of like had to take on less gigs because it's so chaotic unless I don't ever want to get sleep. But um, I mean, you could say that is the life of a DJ when you're like doing it full time, is you're getting no sleep. Because I know a lot of guys that still do it and they're literally like going straight from work to go do a gig. But yeah, I'm still doing stuff, but I mean, luckily I have um the pleasure of kind of being like, hey, yeah, I can't do that, as before where, you're trying to like make a name for yourself. If you're not working, that's like your job at that point. And then you're like, I need to make money and stuff like that. But now, like, hey, I don't have to like take that if I don't want to. I can, decline to take a gig or, you know, but the stuff I've been taking is like, maybe like a wedding, if the client's really nice, stuff like that. Or one of my friends says, hey, come do a guest spot at like, bar or club, wherever he's DJing at, stuff like that.
Are you like, what's like your specialty, or are you like more of like open format, or what's your favorite genres or artists, or even just like listening to music in general?
It's funny. I get that question all the time with like,
Mm-hmm.
if you're in your, even when they ask like, if you're in your bedroom, what would you be playing? It's honestly, at least for me, if there's nobody, it's like, what mood are you in? And then you kind of go towards that. So, again, I literally will play, I surprise a lot of people sometimes, but I'll literally play like a lot of different music. Again, because I'm always trying to cater to the crowd and keep them going and maybe like throw a curveball in there where they're like, how the heck does this guy know that? Um, but yeah, if I'm in my room or just, um, DJing by myself, yeah, it's literally just kind of my mood. What am I feeling? Or if I'm like, I want to get hype, then I'll play higher energy music, stuff like that. Um, but it's always fun for me to when it doesn't get monotonous. So if you have different events where they want different types of music. So I mean, I'll throw an example out like um I did a gig in Hollywood and they wanted house music only because they had three different kind of stages and they're like, hey, this one's supposed to be for house. So you have to kind of like know your rules well, but it's cool to do a different set and not again when it's you're playing the same thing over and over and over, it does get like, all right, kind of old.
Totally. You have to have like different, tons of different lanes and cater towards, audience again,
Yeah.
or whatever the vibe is. Cool. And like reflecting on, because we're doing this for our 35th anniversary of our student run radio.
Mhm.
Um, like what does that mean to you, or like how do you feel about the radio station being running, like having been running this long?
Yeah. I think it's definitely cool to see because even when I was there, some people that were there been doing it for a long time. Um, it's kind of cool to see hear like their stories and their experience of like how, now it's all internet streaming and stuff. And before it was like there was none. Um, so it's kind of interesting to hear how like they did it. Now we're obviously doing more internet streaming side of things. Um, because I look at it too, it's just like even when I started DJing on vinyl, to hear how they had to carry crates and of records and it was heavy and all this, and now we literally, I mean, at this point, it's all on a thumb drive, but yeah, at least for me, I still carry a backpack and with a laptop and stuff, but I think it's just interesting to see how stuff like the history and then how it's like progressed. So it's really cool to see like KSSU still going after, yeah, 35 years and make the necessary adjustments and stuff like that.
Adding on to that, like do you have any advice for our like current KSSU DJs or advice for like future students who want to become one?
So I'd say for the current students, I would say just have fun. Like you do get like, because I know you can get really fixated on like, oh, I messed up here. That's part of the process of like growing, right? When you're, if you think you're making a mistake, sometimes you think you made a mistake, but nobody notices. And that's something you kind of have to learn. But even if you think, you messed up or anything like that, again, that's where the growth is, where, hey, next time I know I won't make a mistake, and you just get better and better and better. And that's how your show and everything will get better from there. As far as like future students, I would say if you're kind of even thinking about it, like doing, either if it's just a podcast or um, DJing, starting music on the show, I would say just give it a try. And I mean, worst case scenario, if you don't like it, then cool. But if you do, then that's how you're gonna only find out. It's gonna be nerve-wracking, probably a little bit the first show, maybe the second one, but once you get into it and you get your rhythm, it becomes fun. And that's the whole thing I would say is make sure you're having fun. That's the main key takeaway I would say.
I love that. I mean, you're only your worst critic, so only you would notice things. Everyone else is, not paying attention to, little mistakes.
Yep.
But yeah, thank you so much.